What if I told you that rendering real-time is now possible if you use Corona? The new Corona to Vantage feature is a game changer. Imagine making instant lighting and material tweaks without waiting for a render. Pure magic. In this video, I show you how this powerful feature works and why it can seriously speed up your workflow. I'll be using the scene from our 3ds Max interior and exterior visualization course. If you go to Render Setup and choose System, you'll find a new option there. Vantage Live Link. In short, every change you make in Corona will be reflected in Vantage. If you cannot see it, make sure you update your Corona, as this feature is available from Corona 12, version 1. Here we go, we have live synchronization of both software. However, you can see that the output is not exactly as expected. There are a couple of reasons for that. First of all, I'll hide the curtain as it doesn't look like it's working fine. Secondly, in this scene, I used HDRI as an environment map, and Vantage at this stage doesn't support this conversion. However, it's not a big issue, as we can easily set up the lighting in Vantage. We can either use the physical sky with the sun, or if we want to get a similar effect, we can use a texture option as an environment mode, and choose the same HDRI here in Vantage. Another thing to keep in mind is that the post panel is not copied either, so we have to adjust it in Vantage too. The options are very intuitive, and we can easily adjust the exposure, contrast, white balance, and more using the color correction tab. The process is not hard or time-consuming, so setting it up is not a big deal. However, it would be great if it all became automatic one day. I'll definitely add more light from the environment, and I'll change the map rotation, as in the original image we had some sun coming through the window. I'll add some contrast. Here we go, it looks quite similar now. Perhaps I'll add more saturation here. In Corona, I always desaturate images a bit, but here I feel we need more color, and I'll make it slightly cooler. Finally, I'll adjust the bloom effect at the end. Okay, great. Another thing is that Vantage doesn't convert light mix, so if we want to use Live Link, we need to change the color of the light in the light settings. You can see that whenever I change something here, for example light intensity, it will reflect in Vantage. Another thing to keep in mind is that it's only a one-way change, so if I change something in Vantage, it doesn't affect Corona. This is why my environment settings get back to the original. Anyway, you can see that I can adjust the color of the lights, and it changes in Vantage. I'm super impressed with how it works. The updates are very quick, the software is very responsive, and we can get nice results. If I make changes to the material's parameters, it will reflect in Vantage too. Similar story if we apply the new material. You can notice that the materials look a bit different in Vantage, but it's actually expected as it's a totally different render engine. Whenever we want, we can also stop Live Link. Another option is exporting the Corona scene to Vantage and working on that there. We can move around the scene in Vantage, similarly as in 3ds Max. I'll just use the mouse buttons with Alt and the scroll. We can set up a new view and add the camera whenever we're ready. Now we can switch between different views easily. At the top, we have some camera settings and navigation. We can, for instance, change the move speed, some render settings. On the left-hand side, we have different tabs. One for the camera adjustments. We can add vertical tilt here, for instance. We have a color correction panel, which we've already walked through before. But there is another cool option here worth mentioning. Scene substates. We can create different presets, for instance, for different times of the day, and change them at any time. Super handy. Next, we have render settings. On the right-hand side, we have options related to environment, materials, and scene states tab. Here, again, we can save various presets for different weather conditions. Let's say we want to have one with the HDRI, and another with the sky and sun. Similarly, like in Corona, we have clouds parameters. We can also add fog. Nice result. And we can create a new state. We can easily change the states whenever we need to. Here we can switch to a clay model, which can be handy if we want to quickly send cameras or lighting propositions for the client. Now, if we import-export it from the Corona file, we'll get more options. We'll be able, for example, to move objects and add new ones. Also, we now have control over the lights in Vantage. We can turn them on and off, change their color and intensity, type, size, and more. We have some extra options if we go to the advanced settings. We have lists of all the objects in the scene. We can apply the materials from the list, but we cannot adjust them if needed. And at the end, the scene states panel. So you can see we have lots of control with these new panels, but it's not everything. We can also use Chaos Cosmos similarly to Corona. We can, for instance, add objects and make the scene more interesting if we feel so. We also have other options like Chaos Scatter, for object, adding decals, and water surface. We can also add lights. The process is very similar to DCC tools like Corona. There will be no issue in switching between software if you already know, for instance, Corona Render Engine. Whenever we are ready, we can export the renders. We can set up resolution, adjust render settings like the quality of the image, add render elements, and more. Wait for it. It took less than a minute to render a 4K visualization. Whoa, that's very impressive. And the results are very good. Of course, there's no displacement on the wall tiles. The materials behave differently than in Corona, and the overall output isn't as high quality as from a DCC tool. But here's the thing. It was rendered in just 1 minute. The render elements look good too. If you need some post-production in 2D software, it will also be possible. It's a fantastic option for quick previews, whether for client presentations or testing lighting, cameras, and different scenarios. This could significantly speed up the production process. It's also a game changer for animations. Imagine how much time you would save on rendering, which is often a major bottleneck. Not every project demands ultra-high quality renders from a DCC tool. If that's the case for you, I would definitely recommend giving Vantage a shot. Let me know in the comments if you used Vantage and what do you think of it. Bye bye!